Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa salam. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. So we'd like to welcome you all to week 10 of our class that we cover in the book Safinatun Naja, which is a Shafi'i primer manual in Shafi'i fiqh. The translation is the ship of salvation. So we're covering the integrals of how to worship, inshallah ta'ala. All right, so how's everyone doing? Health, wealth, knowledge of self.
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well, ma'am. Thank you for asking.
All right, good to see. Okay, good.
Alhamdulillah, and you?
Okay, alhamdulillah, no complaints. Allah is kind, All right, so mashallah, we left off last week. We were talking about we had class last week, right? We were talking about the forbidden acts to do in janaba and a state of haid. So what is janaba?
Major impurities.
Okay, what causes one to be in a state of janaba?
Coming in contact with, anything that is impermissible, such as blood or sexual fluid or anything like that.
Not coming into contact with blood necessarily. It would be najasa, but it wouldn't put you in a state of janaba.
The sexual penetration?
Yes, having intercourse or a woman on her cycle, and also
childbirth.
Huh?
Would it childbirth be in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Childbirth and postnatal bleeding. In the book, we mentioned a couple of these things. They are differentiated because sometimes a childbirth, it may not involve a woman bleeding. All right, and so we talked about the things that are not permissible to do when you're in the state of hadath and the state of janaba. So hadath is minor impurity, right? So when do you become in the state of hadath? What are the things that make it hadath?
Like when you urinate, number one or number two, those kind of things. Or
anything that exits from the front or the back except semen, and also when you have the pre-seminal fluid that doesn't involve an ejaculation, that is hadath. You would purify the part, and you'd make wudu. But if it was with force, it would be put you in the state of janaba. All right, and so the things when you're in the state of hadath, what are the things that are forbidden to do?
You can't pray.
Can't pray.
Touch the Quran.
Yes, touch or carrying the actual. Yes, somebody call me about this too. So touching or carrying the actual mushaf. We're talking about the Arabic mushaf that contains the Arabic language. That is the one you can't touch or carry directly. And then we also discussed that if you're carrying it in the bag with other books, and it's not just the intention to carry the Quran, that will be okay. And then scholars differ about translations, but translations do have the Arabic words in there, so we should not touch the Quran in that state. And we talked about devices. Having devices on your phone is different. You can carry because you're not carrying the exclusive mushaf on your phone. You have other things. You had a question, Sister Zakaria?
Yes. I remember, I think last week, just to clarify regarding the devices. Now we were talking about, like, for me, my ritual every day. I wake up. You know what I'm saying? I remember I was telling you I'll pull up at least read the first one verse, the verse of the day, is my normal ritual. Some scholars, and I think, I don't remember if I asked you last week, but some scholars say that's okay because the Quran app that I have on my phone is in Arabic and English, so it's not the actual Mustaf. So they said if I'm accustomed to reading the verse every day, even on my menses, that would be okay.
Yeah, that would be okay, but I think you said something about in the bathroom or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mentioned the bathroom because sometimes I'll be in the bathroom with your phone, that kind of thing. You told me not to do that, but I'm just saying if I without minus that part, if I when I wake up, if I just read my verse, even on my menses, you said that was okay. Because that's something that I do every day. Every day, at least I wake up and read the verse of the day. I mean, I do more, but just that particular, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Thing you said that was okay to do.
Yeah, that's okay. But if it's like the actual, like, okay, say on your device you have plenty of books, and you pulling up just the Quran. I would caution to be in, I would want to be in wudu in that state. Now if you are in a state of janaba or on your cycle, it is okay to recite. To recite.
You also said that for the woman, I think I mentioned it last week, but I just want to reiterate. You also said when the woman's on her menses, and she can't make salah, another thing that we can do, perform the wudu, the best that we can, and then we can dhikr in place of our salah. Is that still okay?
Yes, that's okay. You just can't perform the actual prayer. Yes, but dhikr is not being on your cycle does not prevent one from doing dhikr.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we talked about the janaba in the state of hadath, tawaf, salat, touching of the actual mushaf and things like that. Devices, a little, scholars differ over it. And if you find a scholar that you find a different view, and we mention all the time the different, that there is no blame in matters where scholars differ on a valid point. So if you follow one point that's valid from a scholar, then it's okay. But us as laymen, we shouldn't make a habit of that. Like, okay, I'm just looking for something to satisfy what I want to do. You know what I mean? So, okay, this scholar says this, I'm gonna go find from somebody else. No, just it should be exceptional. Yeah, and we're going to discuss some of that like today, inshallah. So let me just finish this review up real quick. So haid is menstruation, the things that are forbidden when a woman is on her haid, and so it's the prayer, the tawaf, and we just talked about on the state of haid, on her cycle, she is permitted to recite the Quran, right, but not touching the actual mushaf. And then we talked about fasting, that a woman can't fast on her cycle. She has to make the days up, but not the prayers. And talaq, we mentioned about talaq. And we also mentioned that a man, if he pronounces divorce on a woman while she's on her cycle, it is a sin on him, but it still stands. It still stands. It still stands. Okay, somebody had a question. Okay, you had a question, Sister Sophia?
Yes, I have a question. I know I was not in class last week. Please excuse us for not being here. But we did listen in, and I had a question about that, the divorce, which is one of the forbidden acts during menstruation. Would it be invalid if it is a forbidden act while the woman is on her menstrual cycle?
No, because it is presumed that a person would know the rules, right?
Okay.
And if they do it, it's because of the nature of marriage and divorce, how serious it is. If a man has resorted to the point where he is pronouncing divorce on a woman, it is a sin on him because he's not supposed to do it during that time, but it still stands because he pronounced it. And so it's an indication to be very, very cautious with pronouncing divorce. So it shouldn't be out of anger. Like those conditions should be in place. So, but scholars have said that it is a sin on him to do it, but because he said it, it still stands. So in other words, if it's not serious about divorce, don't bring it into the conversation unless it's really that type of thing, And I'm pretty sure I don't want this to turn to another conversation, but divorce is something. It's a lot of emotions involved in it, and sometimes people are not pronouncing it correctly or at the right times and stuff like that, you know. And it's supposed to be practical and not based on emotion, you know. So for instance, you know, cases where, and I knew I was going to open up a can of worms. This better be a question quick. Well, for instance, you know how a woman be like, I don't want to be married no more, or brother say, you could do what you want to do. And that's not necessarily a divorce. It has to be a clear term that the woman understands that she is being divorced, or a woman says a statement to him when she asks in a khula that it is clear that she's asking for a khula, right? But if the man has resorted to pronouncing, it still stands, but it's a sin on him. All right, and there's a question here. Sister Zakaria, you had one?
Yeah, going to the kula, I remember we didn't touch too much on it. We talked more about the talaq. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the kula regarding this matter for the woman, just so I can have a little bit more of an for our part when we pronounce divorce? I mean, I did a kula on my husband, but it wasn't. I didn't know nothing about it when I did it, but I did.
Man, y'all killing me. So the khula is the initiation of divorce by the woman, right? And so it's like for her, she wants to ransom herself from the marriage. And the khula is basically that she feels as if she can no longer be obedient to Allah by remaining married to the husband. And so the khula has the same rules as divorce, except that it's initiated by the woman. And so it means that she's asking to free the marriage. She's asking to be free from the marriage. And normally the man has to actually accept the khula. He has to accept it, or if he doesn't, then there has to be a qadi that will, you know, they will go to a qadi and you know, figure out the situation. And then the qadi would judge, like, even if the man doesn't do it, the qadi may be able to gauge between it and to give a decision. And she gives the dowry back. And then there is 3 monthly cycles. So, and this is one thing many people say, okay, because emotionally they just want to get out of it because they fed up, this, that, and the other. Oh, give me my khula and I got 1 cycle or 30 days, right? That's the overwhelming majority is that it is still 3 cycles. And the 1 cycle, there is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ gave permission for a woman to observe 1 cycle, and then he freed her from the marriage. But that was a special case. But the overwhelming majority, the relied upon opinion, is there's 3 monthly cycles or its equivalent. So for a woman who may not be having a regular cycle, it's equivalent, which uses like 90 days. Okay, you had a question, Sister Safia?
Yes, well, I guess I asked that question in the beginning because I remember a hadith where I believe it was where Umar radiallahu an was explaining that I think it was a man who divorced his woman while she was on her menses, and it was told to her to take her back, and then, you know, if he's gonna go on with it, to do it while she is pure. So that's why I, you know, mentioned that, because I was thinking about that hadith. But, you know, I can get, you know, more clarification, or we can get more clarification on that. That's what that's why I originally asked that question.
Okay, I vaguely remember that hadith, but we could pull it up outside of class, inshallah. Because it was all sisters in here, and this stuff will go. Let's get to it.
But I understand what you're saying, Shukran.
Fine. Go ahead, sisters. Zakaria.
One more, the dowry. Okay, so this part regarding the kula, I get a little bit confused on, right? I didn't give my spouse back his dowry when I pronounced the kula. He didn't even show up to the master to do the whole shebang, but that's another topic. So my thing is, in the Quran I'm confused because in the Quran, basically, I'm paraphrasing. It says that it's better to allow her to keep it.
Yeah.
So how do we, like, and most men I'm in like this podcast group with a bunch of women, and they talk, and a lot of them are going through like divorces and things like that, or just been divorced, and they talk about how the only thing that the man was concerned about was like, I'm not going to give you the kula unless you give me my money back. I want it all. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that it's better for you to allow her. So how do you decipher between the rulings of the Sharia and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran regarding the give back?
Yeah, I mean, if a man says that, he's dealing on emotion, so he's not, he's not paying attention to the law anyway. So that's a touchy subject because, I mean, a man who has any kind of integrity, like you can have it all, you know what I mean? You can have it all, and I'll definitely, even though it's better, like if a man who has some taqwa, if he reads that verse, yeah, don't worry about it, you can keep it. So, I mean, it depends on the person at that point. The law knows best. Okay, now let's get to the book we working on because, oh my God. Okay. All right, and so we talked about passing through the masjid. That's something when a woman is on a hide. And we also discussed that if it's on there's different views about the Shafi'i school is kind of strict on it. Like she shouldn't come to the masjid on her mints, but if she does, she can pass through. Or if she's in there, like we have, like most places, you have a chair to sit down, so you won't be on the actual prayer area. And so as long as there's no fear of any blood coming through, then it's permissible to pass through the masjid. And like in masjids that we have, where you have chairs, you're not sitting on the actual prayer place, it's something that would be allowed. Okay. Okay, so any questions from that? Or any other questions on okay. Go ahead, Sister Amina.
You laughing because I was coming with a question.
Oh.
No, a question about the topic. So you said that a woman on their menses can't sit on the musalla while on their menses. They have to sit in a chair.
Yes, it's better for them on their menses, at least in the Shafi'i school, to not even come to the masjid on their menses. But if they have to come, they should. If there's no chance, if it's like heavy bleeding that could pass through, then she should definitely avoid it. But if it's not, it's permissible to pass through the masjid. And in the event like you come to a masjid like where we are, or in most places where you have you have a sitting area other than the musalla area, then and being in that area is okay. But still, if you if you're bleeding, even in the area where you're not praying, you should kind of avoid it.
Okay, so but there's no hindrance for going to the masjid.
No, not necessarily, but because of the state that you're in, you should just try to avoid it.
Got you. Okay,
because really you can't pray there, you can't really recite Quran.
Right.
The masjid is basically, the place where you pray, dhikr, stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So she can dhikr though, Imam. But you said she can dhikr though, right?
Yeah, you can still dhikr.
Like my masjid has a sister, like a room, so the masala side is one side is for men and one side is for women, and then they have a whole different building that has a sister room where you can still hear the halakas or the khutbahs for sisters. So that's okay for us, even though I try to follow as best I can the Shafi'i. So when that time does come, I just don't go, which is really sad for my boys. They hate missing Juma, but. Is that okay? What if I wanted to take my boys and I can sit in the sisters' room during that time?
Yeah,
absolutely. They have a room particularly for women, with nursing and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
That's absolutely fine. We're talking about the prayer area because of the state. You don't want, the prayer area because you can't pray and you don't want to cause any what's the word I'm looking for? Where it becomes problematic. All right. So any other questions before we start the actual Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, I'll send you my cash app. There's a late fee involved. I'll let you know the percentage is 9.26. We start at 9. That's quite a hefty fee, alhamdulillah.
Break it up.
Mashallah, good to see you. Okay, so now I'm going to if y'all don't mind, we're gonna start the actual where we start off. Okay, let me get this together. Okay, Sister Amina, you had another question?
Yes, I just wanted to know, did you complete your homework?
Who, me?
Yes.
You it's coming from you who missed the last week, and then we missed a week. This coming from you?
I know, right? So
don't ask me
what
about no
had
homework.
happened was
like a American gangster. I don't give a fuck no homework.
I'm cracking up.
Wow.
Yeah, I did do my homework though.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I have a couple witnesses here that will testify.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so inshallah after class, can you share with me?
What, right now?
No. I said after the class, like when we're done the book. Yeah, the chapter
absolutely.
we're doing.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, let me get started, inshallah, so we can get started. Okay. All right, let me see what we got here. So this week we're doing the class on we're covering tayyamum. All right, so we covered wudu, then validated what breaks wudu and things that are prohibited to do in wudu, in the state of janaba and hadath. All right. Okay. Okay, it should be coming up now. Can you all see that screen? Okay.
Yes.
It's white, but it's coming.
Okay. So this chapter we're talking about is going to cover tayyamum. Inshallah, we're going to try to finish this up. It's not too much on this chapter. So the causes or the asbab or the reasons that a person will have to make wudu. And so the section, I know that's kind of small, please forgive me. The section, the causes of tayammum or dry ablution are three: the absence of water, illness, or the need for water exists, or the need for water exists by itself of worthy animals. All right. And we'll discuss all of these things in the next slide, inshallah. So there are three causes for a person to be able to make tayammum. Not tayammum, tayammum. Tayammum. You know, even if we're not familiar with the Arabic language, we should start getting some words right, you know. Tayammum. Okay, so when to do it?
The ta? Is that the ta or the ta?
It's a tayammum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
so when to do tayammum? All right, the first is tayammum is the definition, dry ablution or to do wudu without water. That's what tayammum is. All right. And then when can tayammum be done? Three reasons that we just mentioned. There's no water. And so primarily it's for one that is traveling, because it is assumed that if you're not traveling, it's you should have access to water. And of course, if there is ever a extreme situation, then this would apply. So when person is traveling, even traveling, they cannot resort to tayammum first. So for instance, if there's not water immediately available, you just can't say, I'm going to do tayammum. You know, there has to be an effort to find the water, right? And then in searching the water, a person search, there's this concept that's called hadul gawth, or the limits for the seeking the help. In other words, that there should be a reasonable thing in searching the water. Like if it's an instance that you're not without water, you have to search water, you search to the limit of what would be reasonable for the assistance. For instance, some scholars say, like to the extent of what it would take you to go outside to like fetch firewood or something like that, right? Or something that's reasonable. Like for instance, you know, let's say we live in Camden, New Jersey, you don't go all the way to Philadelphia to search for water. You know, you have to go within what's reasonable to look for, and something that doesn't take too long to find water, and also, you know, something that will prevent you from finding it in a reasonable time that you would maybe miss the prayer or something like that. All right. And so you had a question, Sister Zakaria?
Yes. Is it once if we do tayammum Do we have to, for our salah, like we have no water? Would we have to then make up our salah, get home or get close to water? Should we make it up?
No, we're going to cover that section about when water becomes available. But no,
Okay.
if you covered tayammum, if you cover your salah with tayammum, you don't have to make the prayer up. Okay.
Thank you.
And so haddul gawth is that there's a limit for assistance, so you should exert everything within your power to try to find water. So don't just be like, okay, I don't have water immediately. And this time, this is really something that's not happens too often because we can find water. So, if you don't have immediate water, you ask your neighbor, you can, and then what scholars mentioned about, the only time where you wouldn't use water that was available if somebody tried to charge you, like try to bribe you, extort you. Like, okay, the only way you give is water, you give me $100 for this $3 bottle of water. Nah, you keep that. Then at that point you can make tayammum, right? But if someone is selling water just for regular price and you need the water, then you should pay for it. All right. And so remember, when we talk about fiqh, it's always discussing what's called mumkinat, possibilities. So some of the things might not apply, but just in case they do happen, you'll know what to do because you never know what kind of situation you'll be involved in. Okay. And then the other thing is about sickness. And so if a person has an illness, so the first thing when to do wudu, tayammum, is when there's no water, basically traveling. Marad is sickness or an illness that stops someone from using water, or if using water increases the infection. And you are familiar with the hadith about when the Sahabas were out and a man had used the water to make wudu, and it killed him. And when he got back to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "May Allah kill them who told the man to use water." He said, and why didn't they just ask, right? And so if a person, like if you have a medical condition where the doctor says, if you use water, it's going to complicate it further, then you can use tayammum, right? Or if you have sick that, something that will stop you from using the water, like a real severe illness, then this is when you do tayammum. So these three reasons: traveling and sickness, and then the other one, water for drinking. And so remember in the last slide, he talked about those 6 cases where if you had water for drinking and you had to like share it with somebody, those 6 categories, there is no blame on you if you use the water instead of giving it to those people, right? So for instance, the 6 things he mentioned, I don't want to go back to the slides, so let me go to the book. I lost my page. Okay, so it says 6 people or animals that are classified as unworthy. So if you have drinking water and these 6 people would need water, there's no blame on you if you do not give them the water and you use the water for wudu, right? So a person who forsakes the salat, may Allah, keep us safe from that. A convicted married adulterer, a convicted married adulterer, you don't get no water. An apostate, a non-Muslim from a non-Muslim country that has war with the Muslim country. So someone who's an open enemy to Islam that is actively fighting against the Muslim, and they don't get any water. So you would, instead of like, say if you ran across a person that was, one of these people and they needed some water and you have the water and it's between you giving them water or making tayammum, you use the water for wudu instead of doing tayammum. So these people, they don't get any love. A vicious dog, and meaning a dog that would attack you, and that of course a regular dog that is like sick, even if it's like a vicious dog, if it's sick, then in that case you would prefer to give the dog, or a cat, because we have hadith about that, about a person was entered paradise by giving a dog or a cat water, right? And a pig. So no swine. We don't got love for the swine at all. MashaAllah. Okay. And so those are people that if you came across them and there was a choice between being generous with drinking water and using wudu instead of tayammum, you would use the water for tayammum. I mean, use the water for wudu instead of resorting to tayammum, right? Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, let's go to the next one. So water for drinking, no harm, no foul. All right. So sorry, a person who commits ridda, you left Islam, you forsake the salat, he gets no love. You know. So in our times, you ever heard this statement? I wouldn't. I forgot the statement now, but it's almost like I wouldn't give you the sweat off my back to make ice water. You know, because of your unworthiness. You ever heard this saying, or something similar to it?
Yes.
Okay, this for older folks. I know y'all young running around in the streets. You know, y'all.
I don't know, but that's nasty.
Yes, but that's the whole thing. You'll tell somebody that the least like the generous thing, like I wouldn't even do this for you because of who you are. So those 6 categories relate to. I'm just trying to relate it to something, you know, a little modern day.
Right, understood.
All right, cool. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, all right, Hoots, you had a question?
Yes. Can you what book is the hadith about the man that passed away instead of doing the tayammum? And because he did use water with his open wound. Do you remember? I remember reading it in the surah, but I can't remember which hadith it was.
No, I'll
The
find
book.
it for you and I'll send it to you offline.
Okay.
All right. All right. So the conditions of tayammum are 10. So the first one, it must be performed with the dust of the earth. The dust must be pure. The dust must not be used or already used on a limb or has been dusted off a limb. The dust must not be mixed with flour or anything like flour. A person should intend the earth, and the person should wipe his face and both hands with 2 strikes of dust. So those are 6. Then we go to the other one. Number 7, he should first remove any impurity. He should determine the direction of the Qibla before commencing the tayammum. He should make the tayammum after entering the time of the salat. And he should make tayammum for every fard salat. Okay, so let me, I got a couple notes on this. We'll go through this kind of fast. Okay. So I put all of this, we talked about before about shurut. So shurut are all the conditions that have to be present before you can do the action, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you did the action. So for instance, the shurut of wudu is that, you know, you have to, you know, your hands, face, all of those things, but that doesn't mean that you actually did the action. It means that you fulfill the conditions for the action, right? And then when the conditions are there, if you miss any of them, then the act is invalid, right? And so, for instance, if you perform wudu and you miss a part of the wudu, and you know, then the wudu will become invalid. But then there's also an exception. Say if you, some scholars say that if you actually complete the wudu, say if you did wudu and you completed all the way through, and you maybe it's a down in your mind, I might have missed something. Then in that instance, you know, some scholars say that you should just consider that you completed it, right? But if you know that you missed a part, right, for sure, then if all of the conditions that to make wudu are there and you miss one, then you have to do it over, right? And so I just put this all in one paragraph, those 10 conditions for tayammum. The dust of the earth, it means actual earth. And so that excludes ashes, but includes stuff like sand. And so actual, you know, actual earth, like, you know, stuff that, you know, we used to play with when we were younger. I don't know, some of y'all come from good, you know, backgrounds. Y'all never played in, you know, they used to, I thought some people could relate. They used to call us dirt bomb kids, right? Because we always
We
we
made
played in
mud
dirt.
pies. What you
Huh?
mean? We used
Huh?
to make mud pies growing up and put
Yeah,
the little
exactly.
worms
We
in
used to
there and
throw,
stuff.
yeah, we
Yeah.
used to form at each other. I'm just saying, I know y'all come from a fluent background, so I didn't want to assume, you know. So the dust of the earth, the dust must be pure, so not mixed with anything. So like no things like najas, like if an animal urinated or pooped in or something like that, it has to be pure dust. The dust must not have been used. All right, so you can't, you know, if someone used the dust before, you come after them and use that the same way. You can't use wudu water that someone already used, right? The dust must not be mixed with something else. He said flour, sugar, or anything like that. And the part said, well, it must intend the earth. So here it means like not dust floating around. So if you come to the point where you have to make tayammum, you have to actually intend to strike the earth and get that on your hands, right? And not just saying, okay, it's a dust storm. Let me walk in this dust storm and okay, my tayammum is complete. No, you have to intend the earth, right? Okay, and you know some of that dust that be floating around
When
in
you
your
say
houses.
strike, you mean actually hit the ground and then grab
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
need,
we're going
right?
to cover that in the next part, but this is how to do it. But you know how that dust be floating around in your house because y'all don't be you just can't put that on yourself like, that was a joke. Okay. I don't care if you got mad or not, it's okay.
I feel the cool breeze coming from the shade here. I feel the cool breeze.
Okay. Okay. One strike for the face and another for the hands. We're going to discuss that in a couple slides. So it's also important that tayammum doesn't remove najasa. All right. So you can't use tayammum to remove impurities for if you're in a state of hadath, right? You have to find water. You have to have water or the equivalent, which we covered in the first part, stones, right? It should try to face the Qibla when you're doing it. Okay, you had a question, sis?
Yeah. What about the hadith where one of the companions of Prophet Muhammad saw the guy, he wasn't praying, and he asked him why not, and he said he was in Janub, and he told him to use the earth. Is that the same thing?
I don't know. I had to look at the explanation of the hadith. He said he was in a
It's
state of
Sahih.
Junub. Was
Yeah.
it Junub or Hadith?
Let me read it. It says it was narrated by Ibn Hussein, blah blah blah. He said, "What prevented you from praying with the people?" He said, "O Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am Janub, and there is no water." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Perform tayammum with clean earth, and that will be sufficient for you." And that's in Sahih Bukhari, 348.
Okay, tired. Well, I mean, the Prophet okayed that, so there's nothing else to talk about. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's an explanation to it, and we can explore it, inshallah. Sister
Okay.
Miriam, you had a question?
Yes, ma'am. Can you tell me what Janub means?
Junub means a state of impurity after, like, the release of semen, haid, all of those major impurities. That's when a person is in a state of junub.
Shukran.
Upon. Okay. All right. So it's after junub is after intercourse, after menses, um, after all those major impurities. All right. And so meaning that you have to make ghusl before you can do an act of worship. All right. Tayammum doesn't remove najasa. So you have to find the Qibla. That's not an issue nowadays. Everybody has them on their phones. The tayammum, it has to be done at the time of the salat. So you can't, do a pre-tayammum. It has to be done at the time of the prayer when it comes in. And the tayammum has to be renewed for every fard salat. So if there's an event that you just can't come across any water, but that's highly unlikely these days. But still, you know what to do in the event that it does happen. You have to do one for every fard salat. But if there's some sunnahs or some nafils connected with that tayammum, you can still use that tayammum. For instance, if you had to do tayammum for Maghrib, right? You would perform the tayammum, and you can use it to do the sunnahs afterward, right? You don't have to renew it for the sunnah prayers. Or say if you had to do tayammum for instance like Taraweeh prayer, just as an example, it is okay to do that, right? You won't have to renew it. But if Maghrib and then Isha came, you have to do a new tayammum, and that's for each fard salat. Okay, any questions on that? Somebody. Sister Mariam, you had a question?
Yes, ma'am. So how much, dirt needs to be used?
Yeah,
I
we're
know
gonna
we have. Okay, you're gonna.
yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna cover that.
okay, sure.
Hold tight, everybody. Hold tight.
Yes,
One more thing.
ma'am.
You
And
said at the time
also
of
hold your
Salah,
questions about divorce and all that too. So no, go ahead. Go ahead, sit.
when you say entering the time of Salah to do the tayammum, does that mean when the adhan goes off on our phones, or should we wait till after the adhan goes off?
The adhan is an indication. I mean, we talked about using devices, so the adhan usually is the time, but we should know the time of salat by the sun.
But no, I usually do the sky. I hear it on my phone, but I look at the sky. I learned how
Yeah,
to
that's cool.
do
Yeah,
it.
the adhan you use that as a measurement. When the adhan goes off, that salat is in. That's the time you do tayammum.
Okay.
All right. But I was just saying, when they wrote these fiqh books, they didn't have this stuff, so we put it together. All right, I'll go to the next slide.
Yes.
All right. Okay. And so then the obligatory acts of the tayammum are 5. So here he mentions the transfer of the earth to the body, to having the niyyah, wiping the face, then continue, wiping the two hands, including the elbows, and tartib, following the sequence between both wipings. All right, so now we're going to come to how to perform the tayammum. All right, so let me go to the next one. On these next couple slides, I just kind of like use the footnotes, because the footnotes in the edition that I gave you, they got some good stuff, and I hope you all been reading through them.
Oh yes, very
All right.
informative.
So I just use the footnotes on these points here. So it's 48 and 49. So he says that therefore it will not suffice to merely pass the hands over the face or arms with the intention of tayammum when they already have dust on them, and that the intention of making the salat permissible, it will not suffice to make the intention of removing the hadath. So here he said you have to the intention is wiping the face and the hands. And then it's not the same thing, because when you perform wudu, you have to make intention for wudu, right? Every act of worship requires an intention. And so tayammum is not the same thing. You don't have to make the intention with the tayammum, right? Because although it takes the place of wudu, it's not wudu, right? So you
So
don't have
why
to.
is it there? Why is it one of the integrals if it's not, if you don't have to do it? I'm confused.
No, it's an integral of tayammum when you meet the condition without water. You follow what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
if you come to this point where you have to do tayammum, these are the conditions for tayammum, right? So it's not the same as wudu, so it's not going to have the same thing as wudu. Like for wudu, for salah, you have to make intention. Tayammum is just a temporary thing until you can find water, because that's another part we want to read, that once you find water, then tayammum is no longer, you can't use it,
Okay, I get it. So basically you're saying that, like with wudu, we make the niyyah first before we even perform. We should make the niyyah first, but with the tayammum,
Not
it's not
should.
listed.
You're supposed to make the niyyah first.
Yes, like you should. That's one of the rulings.
Yes.
So your
Yes.
niyyah, your intentions is first, and then
Right.
you perform. Then you do the basmala and things like that.
Right.
But what I guess what I'm saying, okay, so the difference that we got that for the wudu and ghusl and stuff, and then with the tayammum, the intention is basically, okay, I'm gonna make my salah. You still make your intentions to pray, but not the intentions to use the earth, because you haven't. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a different
Yeah.
intention. Is that what you're saying,
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah,
Okay,
because
got it.
remember, tayammum was only in the absence of water, and not just in the absence of water. in the absence of making intention to find water. So this has to be like that, you know, it has to be an extreme circumstance for you to do tayammum. And mostly it's for traveling. Mostly it's for traveling, you know, when you can't find water. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So the footnotes on that is kind of easy enough. Then continued. I use the footnotes 50, 51. This is for those, I don't know, in the other one, they don't have these footnotes. And so here he mentions that it is not necessary to make the earth reach the skin under the hair of the face and the arms. It is, however, necessary to pass the hands over that part of the beard which is visible. So that's when when you're wiping your face and hands, you're not going to do all of the particulars like you would do. We'll do like how water has to touch every part and skin, nails, all that stuff. And then he said that it's necessary to pass the hand over the face before passing them over the arms. And so once you do the tayammum, that's the order, the tartib, which we're going to cover at the end. Any questions on that? Okay, you had a sister. 2 questions. Sister Zakaria, you go first.
Okay. The order, it says wiping the face and then the hands with the elbows. So you just told us that we cannot use the same dirt. So when we do this, just like with wudu, we have to be mindful to take some earth, wipe our face, and then take some new fresh earth and do it. Do we have to do the new fresh earth with each hand? Does it have to be different?
Yeah, we're going to go over that demonstration at the end. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Sister Mario. You had a question?
Yes, I apologize. I was on mute. But so if we come across some water and it has flies, and we already talked about flies and they're being permissible, but what if there's a lot of flies around the water?
A lot of what?
Flies.
If there's flies around the water?
Yes. Like not one or two. I'm just saying, I'm just giving an example. What if there's a lot of flies?
But then it will go back to the ruling will make the water not permissible to use. Does the odor or the color change? You know, or the smell. If there's a smell or smell, the odor or the color change, then that you wouldn't be able to use that water.
Okay, shukran.
Yeah, so if you came across something like that, but flies would indicate that there's some type of substance.
Irregularity to that water.
Yeah, something, yeah. But flies wouldn't necessarily in and of themselves mean the water you couldn't use. But the water, if the taste, the color, or the smell changes the water, then that water can't be used. So if you came across something like that, you would probably have to do tayyamum.
Shukran.
Allah knows best. Yeah. All right. Let me go to the next one. I don't know why there's an echo on this, but I apologize. Maybe if when people are not asking questions, to make sure that they're muted. Okay. So next thing is the nullifiers of the wudu. And so the factors that nullify the wudu, tayammum. The factors that nullify the tayammum or make it invalid are 3 things. The things that nullify wudu, the same thing that nullify tayammum. So if you pass gas, anything excess from the front or the back, those things. And of course, tayammum cannot be if you're in the state of janaba, that's something different. The hadith that we the sister mentioned may be connected to this. We just had to find out the explanation. Apostasy, which would nullify wudu, also nullifies tayammum. And presumption that now one can obtain water in the case where tayammum was made due to lack of water. So that means that the tayammum, say if you made tayammum and you came across water, then the tayammum is no longer good because now you have water. And so on this one, I'll use the footnotes in the book, and then there's another part of how to do the actual tayammum, and we'll go over that before we finish. And so here he says about obtaining the water. This will apply even if one sees a mirage thinking it to be water or see people who have made water, but it will not break if something prevents usage of the water for wudu. For example, one cited water, but it is only sufficient for drinking, or an enemy prevents one from acquiring it. So in other words, he's saying that if you did have tayammum, and then you came across water, and then it was a mirage, or there's a difficulty in getting water that you might see people with, or say for instance you go to a place and it's a watering well, and there's a lot of people, and then the time for the salat, then in that case you will keep the tayammum. So, or if it's an enemy, if there's difficulty for you getting access to the water, even though you come across it, normally it would nullify the tayammum. But if there's a case with a difficulty, then you would keep the tayammum. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right, somebody. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think it happens, the echoing, if everyone doesn't put their mics muted when they're not talking. Okay, can you still hear echo?
No.
Okay, tell you. All right, so those are the three things with nullify that we'll do. Okay, and that's the end of it. So now there's a section for those who have the book. So we're in there. We'll read the section about how to perform the I keep saying we'll do tayammum. I'm sorry. How to perform the tayammum. So it's on page.
It's 27 in the book.
Well, I got page 41 where it says note the way to perform tayammum with dry ablution, and that's in the
Mine
PDF.
says the sooner way to perform tayammum on page 27, right after this section. I have the white one.
Okay.
The
Why you don't
white
have the black one? It's still Black History Month.
Well, the cream color. We light skin. Don't be hating on me, okay? You better come on now.
No, black is black.
We got our little.
We at the top of the well. We don't really count.
We got our light melanin. We're the light melanin.
We're at the top of the well. We're the first one to get sacrificed.
They mad at us because we the house people. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, so what? So the sooner way to perform the tayammum. Would you mind reading it, Sister Zakaria?
No, I will read it. Sure.
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The sooner way to perform tayammum, dry ablution. Begin in the name of Allah, most merciful, most compassionate, to recite Bismillah completely. Wipe the upper face before the lower. Wipe the right arm before the left. For wiping the arms, hold the palms up, placing the left hand crosswise under the right with the left hand's fingers touching the back of the fingers on the right hand, passing the left hand up to the right wrist. Then curling the fingers around the side of the right wrist, one passes the left hand to the right elbow. Then the left palm so it rests on the top of the right forearm with its thumb pointed away from one, passing it back down to the wrist, where one wipes the back of the right thumb with the inside of the left thumb. One then wipes the left arm in the same manner, followed by interlacing the fingers, rubbing the palms together, and then dusting the hands off lightly. Number 5. One separates the fingers when striking the earth each of the 2 times, and one must remove one's ring for the second before wiping the arms.
MashaAllah. You know what? It would have been hot if I would have did that at the same time. Like you'd be on a plane when they tell you all the instructions. If I would have did that at the same time. But basically, this is how you do it. So, tayammum, you would take your hands and you strike the earth, right? There it is. Gets dirt on your hands, so it's going to be on your palms. And so you will take your hands, strike the earth, or this equivalent, because sometimes some scholars say you can use. So in the Shafi'i school, it has to be the actual earth. And like the Hanafi school, they saying like, dust on the walls or even stones, they say you can use all that. But if you follow the school, you should follow the school the best as you can, and then know if there's an exception that you can use, then you use it, right? So you strike the earth, you wipe the top part of your face down to the lower, the same way you do wudu. And for y'all that have beards, I think it's about 90% on here. That's just joking. Here, the top, boom, right? Then you strike the earth again. And how they mentioned, you take your palm like this, right hand, take your left palm, just go all the way down, and come back up with your thumb out like that, and then like that. And the same way on the left side. That's it. Go down, and then in between your fingers. And that's tayyamum. You had a question, Sister Amina, before we finish?
No. So the tayammum, do you have to keep striking the earth in between the movements?
No, just a strike for each one. So you strike the earth once, that's for your face. You strike the earth again, that's for your hands and arms.
Okay,
That's it.
alhamdulillah.
2 strikes. And then in between. So, and all of that other stuff was, just think about all this detailed stuff of fiqh. All the stuff we went over just to get to that part. To knowing what are the conditions, what are the nullifiers, and just how you appreciate what knowledge is in Islam. Like, there's so much detailed stuff, and all of it comes from something that the Prophet ﷺ did or said or approved or disapproved of, and they observed it, and they observed it, and they preserved it. So we talk about these things with relative ease because they watched everything the Prophet ﷺ did. They remembered everything he said and all of those kind of things. And so now today we have all of these things, even as possibilities, even if we, it's not like, how many of you have ever had to make tayyamum in your journey in Islam?
I haven't.
I can remember.
I'd be too scared because I didn't know how to do it. So I usually keep like a case of water in my trunk.
Yeah. I think in my this is my 34th year being Muslim. I can remember maybe one time. I remember one time, and if there was any other times, I don't really remember them. So, and I know some of us here have been Muslim our whole lives. Can you remember any time that you had to do tayammum? And then you just think about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the region of the world we live in, water is, we should treat water kindly, but water in other places is a commodity. I was watching any of y'all seen The Message, the movie The Message with Anthony Quinn about Islam?
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, I was just watching it last night. And there was a scene in there when they were going to make the hijrah, the first hijrah to Abyssinia. And so when they were making the journey, there was a section when they had the bag of water, and he was giving it to the brothers, and he did it. He like, like, no, you just get like a smidgen. You're not, you know what I mean? This water is precious. We got to save it. So, mashallah, we haven't really been tested with that. We ask Allah to keep us safe, but water is a commodity, and even today in some parts of the world, so normally we don't come across it, but if we ever did, we know the rules. So Islam gives us an answer and an out for everything. Because remember, fiqh is a way out for the worshiper when they have a situation that is not clear, right? Fiqh is a way out for the worshiper, And when we ask them questions, they should be specific to our situation. There was a sister just before we end. Any other questions? You had a question?
Yeah, I put my hand down and raised it up again, just in case you missed it.
No, I'm
So
sorry.
I have a question about making wudu. Is this the appropriate time to ask?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I'm at work, right? I usually go in the bathroom to make wudu, and I'm literally almost getting undressed, and it's so uncomfortable. Is there anything that you could recommend that applies to the Shafi'i fiqh to make it easier for me?
If it's that problematic, maybe you have to just do the forward parts of the wudu: your hands, face, part of your head, and your feet.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, I
Because it's
mean, if
just
it's
uncomfortable to be in the bathroom and almost getting undressed. Like
yeah,
it's
if it's that complication, that much of a complication, maybe you should just do the forward part. So you wipe your face, your hands, your arms up to the elbows, part of your head. Just you could just move your chemo back a little bit. We discussed that at least 3 strands of hair is covered. That's good, and do your feet.
mashallah.
And
Yeah.
make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a way out to make it easier for you.
I mean. Thank you.
Also, this last one. So a sister called me yesterday and about getting married. So I always get these calls about people who are really not part of my community and they want to get married and stuff. And I try to take everything that comes across my desk. I try to address it. And so the sister was giving me the scenario. And so I just had to call. I said, sister, please, if you don't mind, is this your situation? Right? So she was like, well, what if a person, no, you're talking about yourself. Just say that this is your situation. So now I understand how to answer it the best of my ability. You know what I mean? And so the situation is about wanting to get married to a brother in prison. And I'm not taking no questions about this. We agree in. Right? So, but I was like, don't give me a scenario that that you acting like it's made up, and this is your actual situation. So I had to press her about the question, what's the situation? And then no, you can't marry a brother in prison. You can't marry a brother in prison. And the only exceptions that some scholars have made is that if they're doing life in prison and they will never have the opportunity to enjoy the institute of marriage, then that would be an exception and then some of those prisons, you can have conjugal visits, and so it differs, it varies. But just normally, because your man got locked up, he was your man, he was your boyfriend before, and so the situation was because Ramadan is coming. And I'm like, well, it doesn't make a difference Ramadan here or not. Now Ramadan is even worse because y'all can't, you didn't respect it before. Now Ramadan is not a savior like that. You got to respect the other months too. Like, why wasn't marriage important then? And so I had to press her about this stuff to be like, no, wait. And I said, basically, wait till he comes home and then you can marry him. But ain't like, I said, well, when is he coming home? He'll be home in a year. Yeah, I mean, wait, So, and all
Why would you want to give up her rights anyway? I don't understand that. Like, why would you want to give up your rights in the first place?
That's a whole nother discussion that I got plenty of ammo for, but
look, me too.
That's another thing. We'll be going another hour easy. All right, but we're going to end it there, man. There's no more questions. Inshallah, we'll conclude.
Can you send me the 2 hadiths we were talking about? The one about the companion who used the water instead of the tayyamum and passed, and then you said you're gonna the explanation on Sahih Bukhari 348 about the junub.
Okay, yeah, okay, I got it. We're discussing. Sister, I mean, did you have something else or who was it? Sister Safia? Was it something else?
Yes, with regarding to the woman being on the menstruation and if the talak is valid. Well, I know you said that it's valid, but it's a sin. But regarding to the hadith, regarding they command the brother was commanded to go back and wait until she was pure.
Okay, all right. That was from Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu anhu, right?
Yes.
Okay, inshallah, I'll follow up on it. I'll either email you or something like that. Sure. Okay, you had another question, Sister Amina, before we finish?
You're on mute, sis.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was your findings on the question that I had from two weeks ago?
What was the question?
It was something about a heart. I forgot.
Oh, about a person who has a heart attack, would they be considered a martyr?
Oh yeah.
What was the? Didn't we answer that? I got to go back and look at
You
my
did,
notes.
I think you said no. If
No,
I'm
yeah,
not
they're not
mistaken.
considered a martyr, but there was something else. They're not considered a martyr of a person
Okay.
who has a heart attack. But there was something else. I got in my notes. I had to dig them up.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
inshallah.
had gave an explanation as to why, but I just remembered the no.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. That was the answer for that. So anything else?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. So we're in there. We ask Allah who subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this from us. Yeah. You said that was it, or
That was a mistake. I'm sorry.
technical difficulties? Okay, mashallah. So we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us opportunity to gather to learn some beneficial knowledge. We ask that Allah make it beneficial for us and forgive us for our shortcomings and to increase us in good knowledge and righteous actions. Ameen. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Oh yeah, one more thing before we leave. Next weekend I will be in Atlantic City as part of a program. It's Friday and Saturday, and I'm going to make an attempt to have the class on that following Sunday coming back. So I'll let you know if I don't have it, I'll let you know, because then we have one more Sunday after that. One more Sunday. Well, no, that will be the first March 1st after that. All right. And so that class we will definitely have, even if Ramadan begins on March, because it's projected to be March 1st or 2nd. If Ramadan begins on March 1st, we will still have the class, and then we will resume after Ramadan. So I'm going to try to swing it for next week to have the class. I might not, it depends, but I'm really pushing for it. And then if we don't have it next week, we'll definitely have the class the week after that, which will possibly be the first of Ramadan. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to reach Ramadan as well. Ameen.
Allahumma ameen.
Okay, inshallah, I'll be in touch.
Wait.
I'll be waiting. You know I ain't gonna forget that.
Say it again.
My last question on the closing, right? You said wa ana wa atubu ilay.
Yeah, I said subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
Okay. Can I say it and you let me know if I'm saying it right?
Go ahead.
Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
All right, when you're saying it before yourself, you're saying astaghfiruka. I said nastaghfiruka, so I'm saying it for all of us.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
For this class.